Now it's candidate week, and we're bringing in Phil Wyman right now. Phil, how's it going?
Doing good.
Phil's
Chuck,
running for Attorney General. That's a pretty big seat right there.
You know, for an NCO to be called general, that's a heck of a big deal.
What's an NCO?
That's what I was in the Air Force when I was in the Philippines and was throwing 60,000 paychecks into boxes and getting them to our troops over in Vietnam.
What do you mean you were taking paychecks over to Vietnam?
Well, we had a lot of guys there. Sadly, we lost 55,000 of them. I'm a Vietnam-era vet, and I delivered paychecks to the fleet in the Air Force and also to our GIs and our allies like our wonderful Hmong and Hmong brothers and sisters right here in Fresno. So that was my military thing.
So did you grow up in the Valley?
I grew up in the Tehachapi Valley, and also my family were vintners in Delano and Tulare.
Where at in Tehachapi? I know my way around a little bit.
Well, if you look at the mountains just south of town, there's Tehachapi Peak, and my great-grandpa came here after the Civil War and started the first lime business there, and you can still see that. We had a horrible fire there, but from the top, we can look right down on the spaceport, and I'm really into astronomy and all kinds of good things that are happening, and so that's our ranch. We have cattle. We have a hunting club there. Just really enjoy it.
So how did you get into politics?
Well, that's an interesting question. I did go to law school. I started law school, and then Uncle Sam said he needed me somewhere else. And I went to the Philippines and went to law school there at a Jesuit law school. And then came back, finished my law. I was a 6-year wonder. And it took me 6 years. Usually it's supposed to take no more than 4, but I had a break, being there in the Philippines. And then I ran for office once, and I ran for office in the State Assembly and for an assembly seat, and I lost to an incumbent Democrat. 2 years later, I was a Prop 13 baby, supporting Prop 13, and was elected. And that was in 1978, and then I served in the state legislature, working with Governor Duke Machen. We did the Death Penalty Restoration Act. We did.
You did the what?
We had lost the death penalty, and that's one of the reasons Mr. Manson is still alive. The Chief Justice at that time had said the death penalty was unconstitutional. So George Duke Machen asked me when I got elected if I would help put that legislation together and carry it, and it became law. Unfortunately, it became kind of geriatric because of all the crazy things some courts did with it. So this year, working 3 governors, we got Governor Duke Machen, we have Governor Wilson, and we have Governor Davis, who got a Democrat and 2 Republicans that are rebooting the death penalty. But the main thing that saved lives was 3 strikes. I did that with Mike Reynolds. Right
I know
there.
you did, and he's on the show every Wednesday with me. But I think it's interesting that you say that that's the reason that Mr. Manson is still alive. Why do you pick out Charles Manson? Because, he never killed anybody.
Well, he did put a contract out to have me assassinated, so I kind of didn't care for that very much.
Charles Manson put out a contract to have you assassanated?
He did.
From jail?
Well, he had like 40 or 50 people in the Hanford and in the Central Valley area. I had co-authored a bill called Son of Sam's, and what it said is if anybody in the process of killing another party or another human being got a picture and was making any money on it, that it would have to go not to the killer, but to a victim's fund. He read that in Corcoran and put a contract out to have me assassinated.
Did he have some pictures that he planned on making money off of?
He had sweatshirts, and they had his image on it, and all this bill said was, somebody can do that, it's not against the law, but the money is all going to the victims of crime.
Wow.
So I figured must have done something right to earn the ire of that dude.
That dude. Okay, now, running for Attorney General, what does the Attorney General do?
Well, I think a lot of people would wonder. I had to kind of know. What the Attorney General is, he is the top law enforcement officer of the state of California. And he is particularly, or she, the incumbent against whom I'm running is Kamala Harris. They when legislation doesn't pass in the legislature, like Prop 13, and somebody goes and puts it on an initiative, like Three Strikes as well, the Attorney General has to describe and is under oath committed to being even-handed. What the Attorney General does is enforce the rule of law, and that's what keeps us from being a third-rate nation that doesn't honor the rights and the liberties of others. So it's really, really important, and it's very powerful. I am particularly upset about the corruption that we're seeing in Sacramento. There seems to be an endemic corruption of. We've had 3 senators that have been found, and they're now accused of being corrupt. We had an assembly member who apparently thought she should be able to get out of Neiman Marcus and not pay $2,400. Now, I'm a Republican. I can say so far these 4 have a D after their name, but it isn't a Republican or Democrat deal. It's that we have a one-party state in Sacramento, and my commitment is to be even-handed. I had an opportunity to go back to the Philippines in October after that horrible, it was described as the worst typhoon and tsunami that had ever occurred. So you can imagine how ugly that was. And I went with Rotary, and I went with the support of Catholic Charities and others, and we went back and helped raise money and get relief to this little town by the name of Tacloban. I'm very close to Filipino people, so I especially wanted to be part of an effort to let the Filipino people know that the people of California love them and care for them and are going to try and raise some dollars. So this big group that went over there, actually the man that had invited me was with Epcot Center. He was a Disney guy, so he had done Epcot. So he knew Steven Seagal. So he says, well, I'm going to call Steven. I said, oh, that's nice. You just call Steven? He says, yes, I just call Steven. He got Steven Seagal to give $1 million in relief. He also was able to connect through Steven with the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama provided $14 million.
Wow.
So that was, in some respects, I was thinking, well, maybe I'm done with my legislative career. But when I went over there, and I saw the need, and I saw how much had changed in 35 years, I realized that the Lord still had things that He wanted me to do, and I really enjoyed, but I also was really, really saddened to see what actually happened and to see people begin to do the relief. But 30,000 people drowned. 30,000 people.
Okay, well, you're not running for the Attorney General of the Philippines. What are you going to do for us here in California, Phil?
I think what it taught me, and I think when I carried a letter from Jerry Brown to the President of the Philippines, was that there may be partisanship here, but when you see what can happen in other countries if there is no rule of law, or if there's a horrible typhoon and things go wrong, we need to work together. And my commitment is not to be partisan, but to be even-handed. And if the people in their sovereignty put legislation on the ballot, whether you love it or hate it, it is the obligation of the Attorney General to be sure that it's fairly described, and the Attorney General is instructed to defend it. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be in love with it, but under our system, under the rule of law, there will be somebody else, whether it's somebody of the right or the ACLU, they will come in. And it isn't the Attorney General's right, in my opinion, and the opinion of the current Attorney General is at odds with me, as is the governor. If, for instance, you do not favor the capital punishment, I don't think it's, and I know it's not the instruction to the Attorney General to say we're not going to defend it, whether I like it or hate it, like Prop 8. Some people liked it, some people didn't. But the point is, it deserved, because the sovereign majority of 37 million people put it on the ballot or voted for it, it deserves to be treated equally. That's my whole thing. We don't need any corruption. We just need to work together, and we need to be intolerant of illegality, particularly when it's an elected person.
All right, Phil Wyman running for Attorney General. Phil, good luck.
Thank
you
you.
for coming by. Very nice to have you, sir.